Yo, guys, welcome to the Blue Podcast. This is the Gradient Show with me, Tom, and Cam today. How you guys doing?
Oh, good, thank you, Tom. Good, thank you.
Yeah, I'm good too.
Right.
Yeah.
All good. Today we'll be discussing the Batman. Spoilers ahead. So if you have not watched it, what are you doing? This is really late. This is a very late review. So what are you doing? But before we get into it, we are an ambassador for a new app called LinkMe. It's an app that makes juggling social media accounts easier than ever. Make sure to download the app, make an account with our link below, and also check out our merch. That would be greatly appreciated. So, best Batman of all time.
Oh, we sound like that, are we? Just
Okay. Dark Knight. It's got to be Dark Knight.
It's high. It's definitely high.
It's got to be Dark Knight for me.
I'm going with Cam there. I'm going with Cam. Yeah, Dark Knight.
I was just putting something controversial straight at the start of the podcast to get people.
Oh, you're actually advocating for the Batman as the best one?
No.
No.
It was just a hook for anyone watching.
I think everyone can agree that it's got to be a Dark Knight.
Yeah, sure.
It has to be. Right. If you say anything otherwise, you're wrong. Right.
Where does this one rank for you then, Cam?
I'd put it third. I'd put Dark Knight Rises, and then the Batman for me. I think it's really good. I honestly think they've done a really good job on it. Just gotta make it. I don't know. You're never gonna compete with Dark Knight, are you? Ever? Like the villains, like Christian Bale as Batman, like they're never gonna be able to fully go and compete with it. But I think on this one they've done a pretty good job. Right?
How about you, Tom?
Well, I'd go third as well, but I'd actually go Batman Begins as number 2, and then Dark Knight Rises is probably number 4. Everyone loves Tom Hardy as Bane. Obviously, he's fantastic, but for me, Batman Begins just edges Dark Knight Rises and just edges the Batman as well. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, it is a very good movie. Visually incredible. Story's good, which obviously they could have messed up, which fortunately they didn't. We'll start off with Robert Pattinson as the new Batman. You happy with him as the new Batman?
Pretty much, yeah. I don't think there's really any complaints about him. I think he's done a pretty good job. I think he fits like the kind of like darker theme of the whole thing as well. He kind of suits that. I had no complaints at all, really. No complaints. It's just about building up the layers now. It's just kind of like right, you've introduced him. Now you've got to build on him, and how can you do that? So, but yeah, no, I was happy with him.
Yeah, I'd agree with Cam. I think that I saw a lot of stuff going into it, and even afterwards saying, "Oh, it's like Twilight. You can't do Twilight and then go and play Batman." But I thought he did a fantastic job. It was like a dark, brooding Year 2 Batman. I thought he was fantastic. I've seen a lot of complaints about the eye makeup. So like he was wearing the mascara and stuff underneath his eyes, and that's something that's in the comics all the time, because obviously other Batman haven't done that before in the films. Like you take off the cowl and all of a sudden the makeup's gone. But it was like a lot of complaints about it being too goth, that sort of thing. And I just thought, well, no, it's just true to the comics, isn't it? That's how Batman is in the comics. Like it covers up the whites.
It just makes it darker as well. It makes it more like, he is scary. Like even if he takes the mask off, he's still got that like dark element about him. I didn't mind that at all. I think it added to it, if anything. But.
And then the hair thing, I think, is currently it's even, but it's probably just he has a haircut once a year, and he just doesn't care, pretty much.
Well, he's not fussed about being Bruce Wayne, is he? He doesn't really care what he looks like. He is the Batman, yeah.
Which I think they may be building towards him becoming more of a Bruce Wayne as part of the storyline, rather than him just constantly being Bruce Wayne. And kind of obviously the possible premise on a future one would be a more hopeful Batman is what we were left with. But we'll get into that later. Andy Serkis as Alfred, obviously kind of one of the younger Alfreds that we've seen on screen. Obviously Pennyworth is a lot younger that's a show, isn't it?
It's a show, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously Pennyworth is much younger in that, but in terms of the Alfreds in a Batman movie, he's quite young. Do you think he does a good job?
Yeah, he's British. He fits the bill. Like literally, any like British man in America, you know, he's gonna be Alfred, isn't he? Like, he does do a good job. I just can't help but look at him. He's the one that plays Smeagol, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just always see that. But yeah, but no complaints at all, really. No complaints.
Yeah, I agree with Cam. He's a really good actor, versatile, and essentially just like Cam said, fitting the bill for Alfred. You just got to be British and be very, very posh, and he did that very well. I actually, I think there was a lot of similarities between. I don't know if you've seen Gotham, the TV show, but
Yeah.
The actor that plays Alfred in that show, I thought he was incredibly similar to the performance.
Yeah, they were very similar.
Yeah, and that sort of like sprung out to me when I was watching them. But again, I enjoyed Alfred's performance in the Gotham TV show. So yeah, this was good for me.
Yeah. You kind of like obviously there was a bit of a what's the words? Father-son battle in terms of between them two during the movie. Obviously, Bruce saying, "You're not my father," very early on. I feel like they could have done a bit more with it. They didn't do too much Alfred during the movie, which I think is fine because obviously it was a very Batman-centered movie. But I think in the future I'd like to see a bit more Andy Serkis. He's good fun. He's very good fun. But yeah, he's good. And I don't know. This is just me. But do you guys know Injustice?
As in the video game.
Video game and the comic. Yeah.
Not played the game.
Played the game. Yeah.
Well, spoilers for that. I won't lie. There's a bit where Alfred takes a pill which makes him as powerful as Superman, and then he beats the shit out of Superman. I think Andy Serkis would be such a sick version of that. Just him beating up Henry Cavill would be fucking hilarious. But
yeah, it would.
That would be very good. Next on the list is Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, Selena Kyle.
Does anything need to be said? need to be careful here. Need to be careful.
About her acting skills, Cam.
Yeah, of course, yeah. That's what. Yeah, I paid full attention to her acting skills.
You misogynistic bastard.
No. She's just a very, very attractive woman. Okay, you know.
Yeah.
But no, to be fair, she she did it really well. Yeah, like and as Catwoman, she actually got that whole like kind of like sleek badass kind of like the way she walked, the way she talked, like it just kind of fit, and she did it really well. I actually watched like a video about of like the director going through like the film and things like that, and just said like instantly a bit like how Anne Hathaway did it in Dark Knight, just kind of flipped straight into the character, and then just became like this kind of just became Catwoman. And kind of you think about how Catwoman would act, and then you just see it in front of you. So obviously an amazing actor, and did it very well. I thought. Just a shame that she went by the end. Eh?
Yeah, I'd agree with Cam with everything you said. Again, it's she did a fantastic job, and I like the small details that they gave her character as well, in terms of like having the long fingernails. She's like subtle details, and then there's that shot where she's sort of picking the lock at the house of the mayor, and it's got like little tiny cat ears almost coming up above the mask. It's just a tiny little subtle detail that it's just I thought really added to the character and gave it. Because they didn't explicitly say like Catwoman, but then you see the cats, and everybody knows it's Catwoman. But it's just small things like that I really thought added to it, and I thought that was fantastic. But yeah, again, like Cam said, Zoe Kravitz's performance was fantastic, and she did a really good job. Yeah,
and there was the interesting thing of her being Falcone's daughter. Obviously, that was part of the movie, pretty much. But that is something that happens in the comic books, where she is Falcone's daughter in some way or another. It was interesting that they actually brought that into the movieverse, because obviously I haven't done that before. And I mean, I didn't write down his name. I can't didn't write down his name. This is why my memory's awful. Who played Falcone?
Oh, go away.
I don't want to butcher the name though. I can picture it's. I think it's first name Jay or John or something like that.
John Turturro.
Yeah, you see, I didn't want to butcher that off the top of my head.
John Turturro. I had reservations for him as Falcone, because obviously Falcone in the comics is this big, powerful figure and scary. But but he did a very good job of it because he still was pretty terrifying as Falcone and smashed it to us. Because I mean, if there was some big old dude as Falcone and then it was Selena Kyl's daughter who was slim, small, it wouldn't really make so much sense. Whereas physically, you can actually see the attributes that could have passed down to her.
Well, it's the power element as well. It's the bigger factor that he's got. He could have been like a midget, but because of the amount of power that he's got, it makes him this big figure, this big character. So, like, yeah, comic wise, like if he's supposed to be this big, like, brute kind of guy, like big, powerful man. But I think they could have gone anywhere. They could have made anyone. Just the amount of power that he had as the crime boss of Gotham, like it's just you literally are running the place, aren't you? So, and he was running the place. He was behind everything in the end. So, but no, good job though. Good job.
Do I cover this now? I was going to talk about did he kill Bruce Wayne's parents or not?
Oof.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, right. I think they did that many twists and turns that for us to then go out of it and question whether in the end he did kill Bruce Wayne's parents or not. I think we're meant to assume that he did, right?
Because it could have, like he obviously looked into it a lot, as one would, as an ex was he ex? He wasn't SAS, was he? But he was an ex
military, yeah.
Military, yeah. It could have just been a mugging gone wrong, which is obviously the whole point of like the Batman is a lot. This happens a lot in the comics. Was there purpose behind it, or was it genuinely just a completely random mugging? Which is why I think in this movie they've just left it as that, as in it could have been Maroni, not Maroni. Who's the other crime boss?
It is, yeah, Don Maroni and
it's Maroni.
Yeah,
Maroni. It could have been Falcone. Could have been a random mugging. Obviously, in the comics, there's hints that it could have been the Joker back in the day, but I don't think they're doing that in this. But I think the whole point of keeping it up in the air is obviously for conversations like this, keeps everyone talking, wondering, and then also it just puts a question mark on the whole thing, which obviously would probably play on Batman's mind sometimes as well.
And now that Falcone's dead as well, if he was one of the only people to actually know, and he's not dead, so will you ever find out, or was Maroni a part of it as well? And he's in prison. He's in Gotham, or did he die? Oh. No, he's still in Arkham.
He'll be in Arkham, I think.
So maybe he knows something about it. And then you've got the Penguin as the future crime boss coming into it as well. So Maroni's in jail, in prison, and Penguin's crime boss. How's that going to work?
There's lots of avenues they can go down, which is always fun. Well, speaking of the Penguin, Colin Farrell. I was in the cinema with Cam and said, that's Colin Farrell. And he just looked at me like, no, it's not.
I feel like a lot of people had that reaction, though, to be fair. Like, they absolutely covered him in makeup. I mean, don't get me wrong, he did a fantastic job, but he's unrecognizable from pretty much any of his other roles. I thought that was one of the things that stood out to me in terms of they tried to make everything else quite realistic, gritty, and grounded in terms of like the Riddler wasn't going around like carrying a big question mark and wearing a green suit and a bowler hat. But Penguin was like fairly comic accurate, like scarred, disfigured face, massive nose. He even had a bit of a limp when he was on screen. And I think they did a fantastic job in just making him like quite striking, and he stood out like quite a lot.
It was kind of, man. You do even though I knew, you still kind of like double take as in that's what the hell. But apparently at first it was 4 hours in the chair for makeup, and they got it down to 2 after a while, which is a lot of dedication.
A long time.
And it must have just been that he must have done a very, very good screen test for Penguin. And the way he spoke, whatever, was obviously very, very good. And they were just like, so why not get this actor that fits the bill perfectly for what I want and just cover her makeup rather than getting someone that actually looks like the Penguin? Or maybe they just went for that decision anyway. They were going to put, whoever it was, going to put them in a load of makeup anyway. Who knows? But it is interesting that obviously everyone else is normal. No, like, particular addeds apart from maybe Selena Kyle's nails, whereas he's just a completely different person, which is very interesting. Obviously very eccentric as well. The way that he played him I thought was very good. Slightly different to the Penguins we've seen in the past. I thought a bit more kind of going with Gotham. He seemed a bit more like an older Penguin from Gotham, the TV show, which was interesting. Obviously, having worked his way up. But yeah, moving on to probably the big one, Paul Dano as the Riddler. Smashed it realistically.
Yeah, he was creepy. He's creepy enough, right?
Yeah.
He was a creepy guy. You'd not like to bump into him in the street and him just start singing at you, like. Yeah, that's iconic now as well. That's some iconic stuff. Right? That's the type of stuff they've got to try and make, and it's difficult to make that. But something like that now is iconic. So, I know I've heard some people around the house just singing it, just to freak people out in the dark and stuff. It's but no, very, very good. Good, like we mentioned it just before. Now it's almost like a natural take on it. So they are just humans. They're just a bit kind of crazy. They're a bit crackers, but they're also like dark, twisted, and a bit creepy, which makes them so bad. And obviously having like his mask and stuff. But like, I the only thing that I could say is maybe like structuring and planning like a big, massive kind of revolution on like a Zoom call or a live link, like never seen before in a Batman film, and I hope I never see it again. Like when he's getting all his live followers, like I didn't personally like that, but I mean, if that's the only thing I can pick out.
In the modern day, realistically, there'd be people checking online chat rooms as they are nowadays to check for terrorist attacks.
Well, especially for things like this, like it's like mentioning like how to build bombs and guns and like what to, but.
Well, I think maybe it's just because obviously with Gotham it's very corrupt, very like the police force are struggling as it is. Maybe it is that easy in that scenario.
Yeah, I don't know. They just went kind of like down a realistic route, or like kind of realistic. Obviously, we are in fictional comics, fictional films, but and then they like it's just like, I mean, I can understand why he's doing that, but like, why is he doing that? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that kind of feeling about it. But if that's the only thing I can pick out, then
I know what you mean, Cam. Like, it is a bit. It takes you out of it a little bit when all of a sudden you've got like creepy Riddler who's standing in shadows and murdering people to like thanking his followers for like 500 subscribers and stuff. It's like it does take you out of it quite a lot. It's almost like a little bit of Marvel like Fortnite humor in Endgame, just sort of thrown into it randomly. But like there is sort of a sense of realism in there, in that like he's extremely poor. Like part of his plan was because like he's been like hard done to his entire life, and like he's living in poverty essentially, as are all the other people on this chat room. And that's sort of the only way they can really communicate with each other. Like they can't afford like necessarily big, massive meeting. They can't get like a like covert operation, anything like that. It's just sort of the quick way to communicate with each other, but using very like basic and grounded technology. But yeah, there was sort of a bit of drawing you out of sort of like the dark, gritty sense of the film with when he's like thanking his Twitch subscribers. It was a bit silly at that point, but
But if that's the only critique, then like, I mean, that's nothing really. Like,
not a lot, but it is just very, it's interesting because if you think about like the Dark Knight movies and previous Batman movies, when these criminals create this there's like a big group of them suddenly appear, and they're like in the Dark Knight when they're shooting at Two-Face before he's Two-Face. They're all like in the crowds and stuff. It probably is done that way. It's just they don't show it in a movie.
Yeah. They just kind of assume that they've got this following of people. Yeah. So maybe everyone's been using Zoom, and everyone's been on Twitch trying to get their following.
Imagine the Joker of the Dark Knight getting a Zoom call up with all of his minions saying,
having like a Twitch YouTube boxing match to settle things and all that.
Who has Gotham, Batman or the Riddler? We'll find out 7 p.m. at the Octagon.
Jake Paul involved and everything.
Did you guys like? Obviously, there was a lot of parallels between Batman and the Riddler throughout the movie, which was obviously on purpose to try and indicate that the Riddler was thought that him and the Batman were on the same page, which was very interesting. Obviously, the way that they both came out of the shadows at the start of the movies as well, indicating that they try doing things in a similar vein, but in completely opposite directions of how to do it, basically. Because obviously, Batman, yes, he wants to stop the corruption, but he's going around about it in a way of no killing and catching people with evidence. Whereas the Riddler's like, I don't need to give any evidence. I know this. You're dead. In very Saw-esque ways as well. It was very like the ways that he killed them were quite Saw-esque in terms of you have a chance of surviving, but you're not gonna.
It's death or death. Like, to be fair though, if you look at it from like an outside perspective, and you don't take sides with Batman because he's the good guy. Like the Riddler's actually sorted some people out there. Like he's actually he's fulfilled his purpose and he's fulfilled it well. Like if you look at it from like a base level, obviously the way he's gone about it, awful, terrible. But he look at the people that he's removed from that society. And they were all corrupt. They've all got problems. Like, so maybe he's just gone about it in a more direct and efficient way. But it's the wrong way. It's the wrong way.
I was going to say, can I assume you're just like disregard, like blowing up the edges of the city to flood it?
Well, yes.
Very direct way to do it.
Yeah.
But obviously, morally, he's not there. But he's been efficient on what he wants to do. Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? But morally, he's out. He's out. It's done.
He's also clearly incredibly smart. And obviously, if someone with that kind of intellect can't get a good job in the world or of that universe, then they probably do go a bit insane, don't they? When you're that smart to be able to create this elaborate thing, which has so many things have to fall into place and you predict, even to the point where he knew that Falco would be taken out in front of this specific lamppost, which he's got a sniper set up to shoot, is very impressive. And then you do sympathize with, obviously, the scenario he's been under. Kind of, again, a polar opposite of Batman. He's an orphan. Batman still had all the money. And everyone was worrying about him, not the fact that 2 million or 2 billion, I can't remember which one it was going to be put in by the Wayne Foundation, and then obviously was stolen by all the corrupt people that he then killed. It's just the Riddler makes you think, which is very unsurprising because he's the Riddler.
Yeah. You kind of feel for him a little bit, and then you realize, oh no, actually, he's actually really bad, and then stop feeling for him. But I swear in the film it said that he was a forensic accountant.
Yes.
At some point, which makes sense because that job is to identify problems in accounts or identify kind of like loopholes, or if there's like washing going on in the business and stuff. Obviously fits the fact being a Riddler, creating all these puzzles. I'd locate puzzles, find the puzzles. I swear, forensic accountant they're actually not. They're quite well paid because it's so hard. It's so difficult to do. So. What's he spending his money on, or is it literally just explosives and guns? Like, is that?
That's probably not just being Gotham, him doing a fantastic job.
Him being a forensic accountant as well would have possibly allowed him to find out where the money went and where all the money seems to go from these dodgy people, without probably realizing. He could probably have had access to many accounts that people didn't realize at first.
Or maybe that's why he picked that job, so that he could find people. You know, see, and that's literally
there's layers, boys. There's layers
from them little. Oh, he was a forensic accountant in this place, which then oh shit. So that means that he's did. Okay.
It's almost like the people that wrote it thought about it.
Yeah.
So it's like it's your job.
Imagine that.
Well, very hot topic on this as well. Released yesterday was obviously the deleted scene with the Joker, Barry Keoghan. Me and Tom looked it up yesterday. We think that's how we say it.
Yeah, we're not 100% sure. But yeah, I think
Obviously a younger Joker who is very good at profiling, apparently, and was helping the Batman at some point during the movie. But obviously they cut it out because obviously if you show him in the movie, then it's less of a surprise at the end of the movie. And obviously if it's at the end, everyone's going to be talking about it afterwards, which we were, to be honest. So yeah, I think that was a good decision there. I don't think they should bring in the Joker in the second movie either. Obviously, this is going to be a trilogy. I think he should be the third. I wouldn't even be upset if he's not the villain in any of them and it's a future villain in something else. Because we've done Joker a lot. I won't lie. A lot. And obviously there's so many good villains like the Riddler in that one who haven't properly been done in that way. Like Hush, which we'll get into later, which I want to talk about because that get me sick. That's such a good storyline. Batman beats up Superman, so who doesn't want that? But yeah, I don't know if you guys agree with that or not.
I mean, I watched the deleted scene. Obviously, I think everyone's seen it, and he was pretty terrifying. Like he looked good as the Joker. I just don't think I agree with you there. I think we've had the Joker a lot, and we've obviously had Jared Leto do a pretty relatively poor version of the Joker as well. And having done like Joaquin Phoenix and Heath Ledger both getting Oscars, it's going to be very difficult to beat, and especially because they've been the main character both times. It was good to see that he didn't like take sort of the headlines off of the Riddler, because I think we needed the Riddler to do like a really good job, and which he did. But one of the first things I noticed when I saw like the Joker on screen, and obviously you can hear him laughing and everyone starts to go, oh, is it the Joker? Is it the Joker? And because of sort of like the disfigurement to his face, that sort of thing. I don't know if you've seen Gotham, Cam or Macca's, but Jerome Valeska in Gotham, he one of his like trademark features was that he'd has like his face cut off and then like restapled back on, so it's completely disfigured. And that was one of the first things, obviously, because I'd made like the Gotham links with Andy Serkis and the other Alfred. I was like, no way. I was like, surely they're not bringing Jerome Valeska. Got out the cinema, realized it was Barry Keoghan. But yeah, I think he looks fantastic. And yeah, go on. Yeah,
he definitely does look good. And I mean, the whole like this deleted scene just kind of confirms that yes, they have fought each other. Yes, they know who each other are. They're talking about the 1 year anniversary, coming up to the 1 year anniversary. So all this says to me is that they've met each other, fought each other. Joker's fallen into the chemical vat. That's how he's got his scars. So what's happened in that? What's happened in that fight? What's happened in that kind of series? I want to know. But the biggest thing for me that I can think of for Batman and Joker kind of storyline is comes from the game. Comes from Arkham City, I think it is, or Arkham Asylum, when the Joker kind of poisons him with his own blood and kind of like he's going to die. Batman's going to die, and then is that kind of how it goes? Isn't it? Like he might give him a chemical or something like that. Either way, there's one of them dies. It ends up one of them always dies. Either the Joker kills the Batman kills the Joker. That would be very, very, very cool to see. Will it happen? Hopefully, but like we've said, the Joker's been done very well, quite a lot. Yeah. So it'd be very difficult to get to that level or even surpass that. I think it's impossible. But yeah, no, good high hopes anyway, and probably trilogy. If it's a trilogy story, then yeah, maybe not the next one, but the one after, and just build it up to him, I guess, breaking out of Arkham and causing more chaos. I guess it'd be quite good if it is a trilogy to end the trilogy with the Joker killing the Batman, or vice versa, Batman killing the Joker. Maybe something they could go, but I mean, let's see what they decide in the next few years, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot there. I know Robert Pattinson also has come out and said that if they do a Robin, he does need to be a kid, which would be a very immoral way of doing it in terms of how do you rationalize bringing a kid into crime fighting.
Well, I've got a question that I need to ask some other people apart from the people in the house, because there's been many arguments going on, especially from one singular person who's not here right now, but who genuinely believe, walking out the cinema, that the little kid, the mayor's son, is Robin.
No, it'll be Dick Grayson.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's way too young, surely.
That's massive cap.
But the kind of I don't agree, but the justification that he was giving was, at the start you saw him wearing red in his samurai costume, fighting the same style as Robin Woods or whatever. Batman has this connection, this link with this little child because he's not a complete orphan, but his dad got killed. He saved him when the truck was coming into the church at his dad's funeral, and then at the end, he when he kind of goes down and lights the flare, just before that, when he's going to get the mayor up, the little kid comes and gets his hand first, and then he kind of takes him off with the flare, and just I can see where he's coming from.
No, I can see it,
but he's wrong.
Yeah, I can see it, but he's wrong, and it has to be Dick Grayson, in my opinion. But obviously they could go down a different route, like anything else. But I think that the kid was more just a driving force of the story to show Batman's issues than anything else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think it's any deeper.
Yeah, and that's what made him want to protect him more than he's going to put him in some spandex and throw him off a roof.
Yeah, exactly. But then you also had Catwoman's now gone to, I forgot, Bloodhaven, is it?
Which is where Jason normally, as Nightwing, will.
Exactly. So if they're introducing Bloodhaven as well, then you expect that Robin and then Nightwing will come into it. I did propose a question to the people around me, that what if Robin / Nightwing is already a thing in Bloodhaven, and actually he comes back to Gotham, but I got shut down because Robin and Batman have to stay together.
I don't think they'll do that because obviously this is year 2, and to have a fully fledged Nightwing by now would be quite impressive in terms of training him for 6 months and then kicking him off to Bloodhaven. Well, him leaving for Bloodhaven would be very impressive because realistically, he's got to train this kid. How long do you think that's going to take?
6-month program, hard course.
6-month program.
When Robert Pattinson was talking about the age of the kid, did he specify? Because I was thinking
no, I think he just said that he'd rather it was a kid because it would fit the story, because it would make more sense with how comic book accurate this is, for him be like a early teens kind of kid, and then
early teens.
That's what I was thinking. Surely he's got to be at least minimum 16. Because
no, I'm talking I think I don't know. I don't know the exacts, but I know early teens. I think he said. I could be capping, I think, but what I've heard anyway. And I think that could bring in a very interesting plot point of how do you rationalize this Batman doing that, basically, because obviously in the comics and in the Titans show. Well, not necessarily in the comics, but in the Titans show especially, they've been basically banging on about how bad Bruce Wayne is as a dad, and how he's left Dick Grayson and Jason Todd with serious psychological scars for the rest of their lives. So, yeah, that could be an interesting avenue to go down, and I think it would make sense with the way that they've done the story so far, in a sense. But then it's just how do you rationalize this Bruce Wayne doing that, basically. I think someone may have turned a blender on.
It sounds like it.
All right. Well, Barry Keoghan, do you like him as a Joker?
Yeah, I do. I think Well, I remember one of the first times. Obviously, I think he's in Dunkirk, and then he's in Eternals as well. So he's obviously quite a renowned, good actor at this point. I liked his makeup. I thought he was good. I like Cam was saying with the deleted scene. I thought they did a very good job of sort of like setting up his character as like where he is now. And obviously, with a lot of the Jokers, besides maybe Joaquin Phoenix, they're pretty much unrecognizable from what the actor looks like. Like you couldn't really make out Heath Ledger besides when he's got the makeup off in that one like split second scene in The Dark Knight. And again with Jared Leto, you couldn't really tell it was him. But I think he'll do a good job. I think he's sort of a good enough actor at this stage to be able to pull it off. I hope so anyway.
Yeah, and he kind of had the in the Eternals, he was the creepy one, wasn't he? So he kind of almost is starting to fit that bill anyway. In this, he's supposed to be a normal guy with a heart condition, which has caused him to permanently smile, and he actually hasn't been Joker-fied yet, is the rumor, I think.
How's he? So, same as when you were off with, and he's obviously thought the Batman done all that kind of business. This is the anniversary. Fall into a chemical vat. Has that happened? Do you think that's happened?
That hasn't happened yet. I think that hasn't happened. Yes.
So
he's just a guy with a heart defect.
So how's crazy. The skin
scars? Yeah.
I don't know. This is what I've heard and in like my research.
Okay. Because I can't think of any other reason a heart.
I don't know if he necessarily got scars in it. He's just got a very disfigured face.
No, he's definitely like deformed. His skin
is
like.
He's definitely deformed.
Yeah.
I was just saying he's definitely deformed, but apparently it's because of the heart condition that's caused it or something. And he hasn't been quite Joker-fied yet. I don't know. That's what I've heard.
I mean, we could probably speculate about that for like good 20 minutes, but we'll just find out the next time they release it.
Yeah, next time we'll let you know.
Yeah.
He looks pretty much Joker already. Like he's on his way. He's definitely on his way. He's pretty creepy. Like his laugh the laugh is always iconic, isn't it? It's always like, oh, what's the laugh going to be like? Jared Leto, no, just no.
Cackle,
but it's just awful. But like it's just kind of just menacing, maniacal, creepy laugh. That's just perfect. Like that's all you want. That's all you want. So.
Thoughts on, obviously it's starting in year 2. We've spoken about the fact it's year 2. The fact that we don't have to worry about the relationships between Alfred and Bruce Wayne, the relationship between the Batman and Jim Gordon and those kind of things. They're all like, we all know them. Everyone knows them. Everyone's watched the Batman before. And so obviously to start in year 2, when he's experienced, we can tell obviously he was solving most of the riddles very, very quickly. But obviously him and Jim are still only in their year 2 and make mistakes. Thoughts on starting at this point instead of from the beginning, as pretty much every other Batman has?
Yeah, well, I think they did. I think they did well with that. I think they took a leaf out of probably Spider-Man: Homecoming's book in terms of we don't need to see Uncle Ben die. We don't need to see the same shot of his parents dying in that alleyway, which we've seen probably 3 or 4 times now.
Probably more. I think
this what?
Probably more, to be fair.
Yeah, probably more. Yeah, as I think I remember Batman versus Superman, the Dawn of Justice one, where it's like a 5-minute slow-mo scene of just the pearls flying off. Like, come on, Zack Snyder. We all know what's happening. Like, we don't need to do it again. But yeah, I think they did a good job. I think, like you mentioned, they got a good balance of like sort of solving most of the riddles, but then still like needing Alfred's help with a couple of things. I think a good example is when he's sort of doing the wings, like when he's jumping out of the building. Like it's very realistic the way that they did that. It wasn't like it didn't look like a bat. It just looked like some guy with just the ability to sort of glide.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
The only thing I would say about that just quickly is how the hell does he stand up after hitting that bridge? He gets clotted. No, I think and Christian Bale does it as well at some point. He just that's it. He just jumps off a building, but his wings save him. Like it's just like anyway. They'll carry on. Sorry,
but yeah, it's sort of just the fact that he's like year 2 Batman. Like he sort of knows what he's doing, but then still he parachutes at the wrong time, and then gets absolutely flung across a bus and then like across the road. And yeah, it's a different conversation of like how on earth is he standing?
How is he still alive?
It's the Kevlar. It's the Kevlar.
Yeah.
Forget internal injuries. Those don't exist. Flying at probably 100 miles an hour from the fact that he was jumping from this huge building.
Ragdolls. And then he just gets up and walks off in an alley. Oh, great.
It's the same with the bulletproofing, isn't it? Like, it's like, oh yeah, his suit's bulletproof, but like, what about the mask that you can just see his face? He's like, they just decided not to shoot at his face, I assume. They just empty machine gun clips onto his chest instead.
Stormtrooper aim.
Yeah. But it did make for a very cool scene. We'll move on to cinematography as well. The scene where obviously you can't see anything else but the gun muzzle flashes. Very cool. Very Darth Vader, which I think they were going for pretty much from the get-go, when the tune that was played when you first see the Batman was very, very much like the Darth Vader theme in terms of, well, the melody and all that. So there are actually, I've spoken about a lot of Darth Vader links between obviously the Batman and Darth Vader in this movie. Why do you think they did that?
Well, I think potentially it's just because they're setting him out from the offset. They sort of painted him as this dark figure. It's like, yeah, Batman's a good guy, but if you look at the criminal's perspective, they are absolutely terrified of him. Like that first opening 10 minutes is a masterpiece. Realistically, like you just see the criminals looking into shadows and being absolutely terrified as soon as they see the bat signal out. And I think it's almost sort of like linking it as in this dark, terrifying, menacing figure, which is what Darth Vader was, which is why I think the theme tune was very similar. I think the way he sort of steps out of the shadows at the beginning is quite reminiscent of the Rogue One scene where Darth Vader steps out of the shadows before he just kills everyone. And so I think they did that very well, and there's definitely, like you say, an obvious like parallels being drawn between the two.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think, Cam?
Yeah, no, he's just a dark. I agree with Tom. Right? He literally is just a dark figure. Like he kind of, he doesn't. You see him all good. Do you know what I mean? He's like kind of got a bit of kind of duality about him, which kind of just shows like his internal kind of thing as well of like dark, bad, good. Like what should I do? What should I not be? Kind of thing. But ultimately, he's still got that. Well, he's not going to kill you, but he's going to beat you and hurt you, and
within an inch of your life, pretty much.
Exactly, he's got that fear element still about him.
Yeah.
So, to create fear into people, you need to kind of be like that. You can't. You have to. If you were kind of a vigilante in Gotham, you'd have to be badass. You'd have to be a dark kind of badass kind of guy. So, yeah, no, I think it was good as well that they kind of started at this point. Because, we don't need an origin. We don't need that. And we can kind of just assume from the very, very starting kind of time you see him that, okay, so he's recognised, he's known, everyone knows who he is. And he's already kind of got some sort of authority and structure about him, which is nice. Even though it's a 2.5 hour film, isn't it?
Yeah.
If it's 2.5 hours, we don't need, like... Imagine if there was an origin part of that. It's just wasted time. We didn't need it. But no, it was nice. It was good. It was, and him as a Batman, all dark and that. It just fit kind of the whole thing. And if you're talking about cinematography as well, we're going on to it wouldn't have worked any other way. You couldn't have had like a happy dancing Bruce Wayne / Batman in like a latex suit. In this kind of Gotham, it just wouldn't have worked. It just wouldn't have happened. So, going into the bar, is it 42? Ice Bar 42.
Iceberg Lounge.
Iceberg Lounge. That's it. And Underground 40 something, which has got a reference to something else. I think Tom might have told me the reference or something. I can't remember.
Which bit?
The like underground of the underground bar, like it's called like something 40 something, and the 40.
I know I told you something.
Yeah, and the number 40's got some sort of reference to something. I don't know. You told me
At the time, I knew my stuff, but I can't remember now.
It's
Yeah,
just escaping you now, yeah.
Yeah,
to be fair, it was a few weeks ago now.
yeah, it was. Yeah, we are sorry for the delay. There's just been delays. Pretty simple.
Yeah, it was. I think I got there on the first or second day, and you guys took your time. I thought that's fine. I'll happily wait to talk about it.
And then
you better. Ben's still not seen it, has he?
Yeah, we were waiting for Ben, and then obviously Ben's not seen it still. And then we were going to record on Wednesday. That didn't happen. Now we're recording 11 o'clock on Friday. So Friday upload.
Of course.
But yeah, okay. I'm not being controversial when I say this though. Possibly the most visually pleasing Batman of all time.
Oh, I'd say the most visually pleasing Batman of all time. I mean, like Christopher Nolan's obviously fantastic. Dark Knight trilogy was amazing, but you wouldn't go in and say, okay, so yeah, the cinematography was amazing in those films, but it's not the standout feature. Whereas for this one, I'd say there's definitely moments in it, like the flare scene towards the end, where you just go, okay, wow, like you just have to take a step back and go, wow, that looks amazing. And
the car chase scene as well was
so
good.
Even I think when the Batmobile starting the engine and
it's just the bass of it. And
loud in the cinema as well. Oh,
it's such an experience, yeah, it's such an experience, and it was just it was fantastic. I think.
No, it was very, very good.
No, it was best of all time though, Tom. Best of all time. Ooh.
Visually.
Yeah. Visually best of all time. I can't disagree with you. With you.
That might just be a product of it being a more recent film. I mean, you could actually know, to be fair, because they've done like Dawn of Justice and then Justice League like more recently, and this is definitely more cinematically like pleasing than those. Although Zack Snyder cut of the Justice League,
very good,
will definitely like that will definitely come close to it. To be fair,
yeah, for sure. I thought that the fight scenes were very Arkham Knight-esque in the way that they did them. Did anyone else notice that?
I have not played that game. No,
just kind of like.
It's like he picks up a gun, he beats the crap out of a person, he drops it, moves on. It's not perfect. So like in the games where let's say you're beating up one gangster, another gangster will come up behind you and whack you with a bat or something. Like that happened in the movie, and shows that like it's not like my mind this morning is slipping. Ben Affleck's Batman, who literally could go into a room of 40 guys all with guns and survive and absolutely beat the crap out of them. Whereas if you do feel like if Robert Pattinson's Batman went into a room of 40 guys with guns, probably would still die. It's like he wouldn't come out of it. That's kind of like the rawness of it, which I think Christopher Nolan did very well with The Dark Knight. Was he is human, and he could still get beaten up, which they did. Obviously, they did a lot of it. The Dark Knight, he got beaten a few times. So they did. Yes, he was bulletproof, considerably bulletproof. But then even at the end, he got a shotgun blast to the chest, and even that took him out. And then, was it Venom?
You had an interesting theory about this, didn't you? Yeah.
I think Venom.
I assumed it was adrenaline. Just
adrenaline. Yeah. I thought it was just.
There's no way that they tease a strange-looking vial, which is kind of yellowy, kind of green, and he injects it into himself, and then he's a beast who is uncontrollable. There's no way that they don't tease that, and it's not Venom, in my opinion.
Do you want to expand on what Venom is? Because I'm not an expert.
Venom is what Bane uses to be as big as he. And it's like, it kind of like numbs pain a bit, and it basically like boosts all your muscles, basically.
It's like a super adrenaline. It's just like
super adrenaline, basically. So I could see it being Venom. Obviously, so in the comics, there is a comic book run after Bane breaks Batman's back, or before. Bane broke Batman's back at some point in either before or after this comic book run. But Batman becomes addicted to the stuff because obviously when he's on it, fighting crime is very easy because you could just destroy anyone that tries to fight you. And then obviously he has to come off it, he gets addicted, whatever. Like it's an addiction.
Goes into rehab.
Well, he has to go to Batman.
Venom
Relapse.
Anonymous.
I think he gets locked in the Batcave by Alfred, away from any venom, to detox for like 3 days.
Yeah, in a dark lit room with some chairs. It's just him and Bane.
just like writhing about because he's got withdrawal symptoms. Yeah,
Well,
pretty well.
it would make sense if it's in there, because I mean you'd expect to see Bane at some point. Again, they've done it and they've done it well, so maybe not. But if they have got Venom in there and it is kind of like hinted that it's this actual thing, it's been made, it's ready to go, and then somehow Bane gets his hands on it and starts using it, then that could be a thing. Like that could definitely be a thing.
As Bane, thoughts?
He's just a big badass bloke, isn't he?
If there's an actor that physically resembles Bane from the comics more, there's no one more physically looking like Bane from the comics than Dave Bautista, in my opinion.
Do you think they'll go more classic Bane and go like with the whole kind of
the hood, the
black mask with the red eyes and the big kind of Venom tanks, and then
I could see it.
Instead of like Tom Hardy's like gas.
Why I think he could be a sub character in the next 2 movies.
But what I agree with you that Dave Bautista would probably do a very good job. I just think it's quite a big risk to go and take on Tom Hardy. I mean, we've seen what's happened with the Joker trying to take on Heath Ledger. Obviously, like Tom Hardy was fantastic, but he wasn't like quite Heath Ledger's Joker. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix did a good job of sort of his own take, but I think it'd be very difficult to beat Tom Hardy's performance.
Well, you'd have to be a very different Bane, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know in this universe if you could really pull off like the full mask with like the tubes running up to his head with the venom in it. I don't know if they could quite pull that off in terms of it being realistic and gritty. I think, if anything, the Dark Knight Rises version of Bane was quite gritty and realistic. But
it would be very different, very difficult.
Unless he had like a medical problem that was the only thing keeping him alive, like kind of in that kind of sense where he's kind of like on like a drip of venom constantly.
I mean, yeah, they could definitely do that. Yeah,
if he's got like a medical issue that then means that he has to have it, and then sometimes he just boosts it up and goes crazy. The whole like kind of wrestler theme, probably not, unless it's something that kind of he develop into. But yeah, like Tom said, I think I'd rather see him as like a sub character, so like a henchman. So say if he was like a Penguin henchman, just to go and beat people up,
kind of like a gun for hire, but
2
guns for hire.
Instead of a main character, that's what I'd rather see him as. And I think he'd still be fulfilled of like that Bane. And if he breaks his back, even better.
And then we can have the whole drug addict Robert Pattinson. Brilliant.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
He's actually fit his character so well, really.
Yeah, it would do, yeah. And then reaches enlightenment by the end and just becomes peace.
Like, he has hope at the start of the movie. He loses all hope with his back broken, and then he's addicted to venom, and then he gets off the venom, and then he saves the day.
And then he takes on Robin the second wave.
And then he brings in Robin, who's a 12-year-old kid.
And gets him on venom.
Jesus.
That's how he becomes Nightwing in 1 month.
Yeah. And then he has to run away from his abusive and bad influence father and goes to Bloodhaven and becomes Nightwing.
Wow, we are right. Batman.
You've heard it here.
He needs to contact Matt Reeves because we already have the next 2 films lined up. Yeah.
Oh wow, that was something else. Well, I'm going to get a bit nerdy. The 2 comic book runs that are this movie is definitely taking stuff off is The Long Halloween and Hush. I'd rather that they do Hush as its own entity in the future because it's a great story, but I don't know how they do it with the mind-controlled Superman bit, but that would be a bit difficult considering there's no Superman yet, but you never know. Could be a 3rd movie. Because with Hush, there are loads and loads and loads of villains involved. Joker's involved, Riddler's involved, Catwoman's involved, Poison Ivy's involved. Well, obviously Superman's not a villain, but he's involved. Parachute Man? Kite Man, that's it. Kite Man's involved. So there's a lot, like, as a third movie, I think it could be good because obviously you can still build up all these characters, etc., and then still, like, the Riddler would be involved, but he's not the main character. But by the end of Hush, he knows Batman's true identity. Does the Riddler in this movie know Batman's true identity or not?
No.
I'm unsure.
I'm very interested. I want to hear Cam. I want to hear your reasoning for this, Cam.
They built it up, especially at the end, to say like, oh, he actually does. He's like, oh, he's talking about Bruce Wayne, and Batman's kind of stood there shitting himself, like, well, I'm Bruce Wayne, and I'm stood right in front of you. But then, like, you got this kind of like, it's just, I think that was just a suspense, like, just build up, and then actually no, he doesn't actually know who he is. Like, he's talking about Bruce Wayne. He can still like idolize Bruce Wayne and have all these things, but that has no relation with Batman because he doesn't know Batman is Bruce Wayne. He just has this obsession with Bruce Wayne because he's so like connected with him, and he has this like almost like hatred for him because he was an orphan as well, but he got all these extra things he didn't. So I just think that Bruce Wayne connection is different to the Batman connection, in my opinion. I think they're two different things that he's got.
I have a theory about that, which is I think the Riddler has an inkling that is him, because the one time the Riddler does something a bit out of character is when he sends Batman to the orphanage, because there's no killings, there's nothing in particular. The only attack that happens is on Bruce Wayne at the time, and it would make sense in a sense. This is a bit of a stretch, but it does make sense that he sends Batman to the orphanage for this random thing, which is completely unrelated, realistically, to test the theory that he's Bruce Wayne, because he sends Batman away. He sends a package to Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne, who is always in his Wayne Manor tower by himself, who would have received the package, isn't there, doesn't get killed. And then he says Bruce Wayne, and you'd be stupid if you're sat as the Riddler and you look at Batman and you don't go, I've just said a name, and he seems a little bit taken aback by it. So I think he may not necessarily, he may know and not have, didn't want to give it away as well, which is another option, or he thinks he knows, but he's still not 100% sure yet.
But here's another little but he addressed the letter to Bruce Wayne to go to the tower of like Bruce Wayne's tower. So that means that he expects him to be in the tower, whereas he's sending Batman to the orphanage.
But I think that's Tom's point. He's sort of playing on the hunch, like he doesn't 100% know if Bruce Wayne is Batman, so he's still addressing the letter to Bruce Wayne, because obviously he thinks that if he's not Batman, obviously he's going to be in there. But I hadn't heard that reasoning before, Tom. I think that's quite good in terms of like that's why he sent him on an unrelated task, sent him out of the way of like Wayne Manor just to check.
The whole orphanage thing is just filler. It's not. There's no murder. There's no. All it's doing is showing Batman that the money was stolen from the Wayne Foundation. Like
I saw something that orphanage might have been Wayne Manor as well, just to drop that in there, because it was burnt down as well.
No, I think it was burnt down. They say earlier in the movie that his orphanage was burnt down.
But the Wayne Manor could have been burnt down. That's that place that he went to where he sent him, and that's why he's living in the tower, because it was burnt down.
It is interesting. Obviously, he is living in the tower, because obviously normally it's in Wayne Manor. But what do you think?
Just something I saw.
What do I think about this? Well, like I pretty much agree with both of your perspectives in terms of like your reasonings of getting there. Is a good chance he does know it's Batman. There's also a good chance he doesn't. I mean, the film would have you believe that he doesn't know from like a face value point of view, and that he's saying Bruce Wayne's name, and then there's a sudden realization, like he didn't get him. He doesn't know like the Batman is Bruce Wayne. But then again, like Tom, you were saying, there's a lot of hints out there which if you really think about it, that would suggest that he does know he's Bruce Wayne. He just doesn't want to give that identity away. He doesn't want to let other people know that he's Bruce Wayne, because for a lot of the film, like the Riddler believed that they were working together, right? That's what a lot of it was. So yeah, anything else for you to add?
I think that's it. And then obviously the Long Halloween brings back Calendar Man and is about the holiday killer, who pretty much does the same thing with the Riddler. He nothing alike actually, but it will make sense in the end. He goes around, kills people every holiday, and the Batman is trying to figure out who he is over time. So, in a sense, it's similar because obviously the Riddler's killing, and he's trying to figure out who he is. So it's kind of following that same vein in terms of if you're trying to pick out a comic book art, but I think it's closer to Hush. They're very, very loosely based. Very, very loosely based. Very, very loosely based. Before we wrap up, I want to speak about the future of the Batman. Obviously, Penguin is having his own spin-off series, which will be interesting. What do you think the series will be about? Because I don't really know.
I was just thinking the same thing, because like they're not going to have Batman in the series. You'd imagine Batman's not a series type of character. I would guess they'll do something more like maybe just like a crime series where it's just like different gangster bosses, mob bosses, mafia bosses, that sort of thing, sort of like turfing up Carmine Falcone's territory, and Penguin's there that eventually is just taking over all of it. I guess that's sort of what they'd look to do. Maybe he starts building his own empire, because obviously we've seen he's kind of been the right-hand man to
the Iceberg Lounge in the comics is his.
Yeah, but in this it's Falcone's, and he just works for Falcone. Yeah. So yeah, I imagine he gets the Iceberg Lounge and then starts sort of building his own empire. Do you reckon if they do the series, then we'll be going into the second and third films, you'd be expected to know the events of the series if Penguin's then in the second and third films as well?
Probably, you'd think, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, but there will be people out there that won't have watched it. Like, so many more people will watch the second and third Batman films than will watch the series. So my only guess could be that there won't be anything groundbreaking in terms of his character.
Yeah. I know. I get you. It'll be quite standalone. In a sense.
That you won't get them explain in the film. Yeah.
You'll still be able to enjoy the second and third movie without watching the series, I'm sure. Yeah, definitely. What else was there? Obviously, I want Hush to occur. I really want Hush to occur. I think it's a great storyline for the comics. Thomas Elliot is obviously a childhood friend of Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne's parents save Thomas Elliot's parents, who he actually intentionally got killed, which then made him really angry with the Waynes. Then the Waynes die anyway. And then, I can't remember the top of my head, something like that. And then he goes crazy. And he is a professional surgeon, one of the best in the world. And then he makes his face the same as Bruce Wayne's. So that could be...
I'm back.
You're back.
That would be interesting.
That would be very strange.
Sorry. What did I miss?
We're just finishing off here.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Hush? You're talking about...
Yes, about Hush and Thomas Elliot and making his face the same as Bruce Wayne's face.
Yeah.
And trying to kill him, but not kill him whilst destroying everything that he ever loved.
So just doing the worst thing.
Yeah.
Just you know.
He brings back Jason Todd. This is before Jason Todd becomes Red Hood, by the way, and comes back to life. He gets Clayface to pretend to be Jason Todd to fuck with Bruce Wayne as Batman.
Nice.
Yeah.
Actually, do you think how supernatural do you think they could go? Like, do you think that they could have a Clayface or they could have a Croc? I don't personally think they'd be able to do it. I don't think they actually would.
Go.
I was thinking that like Clayface is very supernatural, so maybe it was just like he's a master of masks rather than he can actually shapeshift.
Yeah, it is a shame like that they haven't been able to tap into Clayface at all really in the movies, because obviously like back in the day, obviously CGI wise impossible. Nowadays much more plausible. But it just with the way that we like everyone nowadays likes a Batman movie, it is now impossible really to do kind of bring in a Zatanna or a Clayface, like those kind of mystical or
like a Grundy
supernatural,
or something.
a proper killer croc who's literally a giant crocodile.
Yeah.
Like you can't really do that, unfortunately,
No.
which is a massive shame. Because like with Killer Croc, there's so many layers to him in the comics. Like he's just been abused his entire life, and like he does get brought around at points. Obviously, then does still bite people's heads off. Clayface, for a long time over the last few years, has actually been a good guy. Till he got killed by Batwoman, which was interesting. He got shot in the head by Batwoman, which was sad. Spoilers for the comics, but I mean, you're not going to read them, so it's fine. And then obviously Zatanna is sometimes a love interest of Bruce Wayne, depending on the age that they decide to make her, and then sometimes a love interest for Nightwing, depending on the age they make her.
Well, if they're going with the old young teenager, we could see a bit of like a 17 again or something on Batman.
17.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so you can have some sort of like some teen rom-com drama.
Yeah.
No. No.
Probably wouldn't.
Moving on to obviously we are expecting a more hopeful Batman in the second movie. Which what do you think that will mean? Because obviously, like it's all well and good saying, "Oh, Batman will be more hopeful," but how are they going to portray that?
Well, I think Robin would be a good way of doing that. I mean, Batman's open to training other people, and he'd probably use Robin as like sort of like his own version of being good. So he'd still be able to do the bad stuff himself, but then like beating people up. But then he'd sort of use Robin to portray all the good like characteristics that Batman has and be sort of like that more hopeful side. I mean, they mentioned in the film that the bat signals, it's a warning, isn't it? It's a warning to criminals. Whereas maybe they could tie that in, even just slip a couple of lines in there about it being more of like a symbol of hope, which it is.
Yeah.
It's like Superman's message, and being a symbol of hope to all like the innocent people in Gotham, rather than it being necessarily like a warning to criminals. I don't know. How about you?
Yeah, especially right at the end where he's helping everyone in the stadium, getting them out. It's just kind of that kind of connection with the city and the people. Like that's something that he's going to kind of, you can see he's already started to grow with it, and it's something that he's going to carry on doing. It's just like the protector. So he calls himself Vengeance now, but maybe he'll kind of go towards of like a guardian, like the shield of Gotham instead of just solely out to get back at people that are doing bad things, but more of like a safeguard for everybody that can't protect themselves instead, because he actually cares about the people, not just the city, but the people involved as well. So so something that they probably will go into. They're definitely going to go into an arc, aren't they? They're definitely going to have like some sort of development, character development. Obviously, he started off pretty down, and then obviously he's going to kind of get better. Something's going to knock him back somehow, some way. Probably someone dying, which you can kind of see. Maybe, I don't know, an Alfred dying or Gordon dying if he builds a relationship with him or something. You never know. But no, it'll be interesting to see. It will be really, really good to see when they go with it. How long do you think it will take them to do a film? Like, do you think it'll be a couple of years, a year, or do you think it'll be?
I'd expect more than a couple of years. Like, I don't think it'll be quite as quick turnaround as some of like the Marvel films, because obviously they put like a lot of detail into the story and like the world building, that sort of thing. So I think it would. I'm guessing 4 years. That would be sort of like just like thinking towards the Dark Knight trilogy. That was about. I think the first one was 2005, then it was 2008, wasn't it? And the last one was 2012. So it's like 3 or 4 years between. I can just see, like you were mentioning, with like the more hopeful side being more Bruce Wayne involvement for the next couple of films, especially because like the new mayor was saying she wanted to see like more help from the Waynes in terms of them being like a charitable organization, that sort of thing. So I can see Bruce Wayne coming out more, because obviously in this film it's very Batman centric, not a lot of Bruce Wayne at all. So I can see, yeah, I think they'll have more of like the classic Bruce Wayne billionaire playboy, that sort of thing, that's like, but also doing like good things for the city as himself, and then sort of like.
Do you think that then he could like kind of go? So he's you could see now that he's a Batman extreme. Like Bruce Wayne's basically non-existent. He's an extreme Batman. Do you think that slowly it could tip to like, no, he's going to be the eccentric billionaire, and he's going to be dismissing his duties as Batman, and there's going to be consequences for that, and then he kind of needs to find the balance of, right, okay, I need to do this, but I also need to do this, and otherwise, if I don't do this, this will happen. If I do this will happen. And so maybe in the next one, he's neglecting Batman. Maybe he's bored of it, and he wants to become more of like the billionaire playboy. And as a result of that, things happen that he could have avoided if he had been around. Maybe
it's definitely an interesting point, because I think there's a lot of sort of that inner conflict going on in a lot of like superhero films. It's definitely an area they could explore, sort of, because at the moment, like, he's completely neglecting being Bruce Wayne. But yeah, it would definitely be an interesting turn to see him sort of neglect Batman and see the consequences of that. Which would, I think, really drive home the importance of there needing to be a Batman in Gotham. Especially if he goes full Bruce Wayne and it gets even worse than it already is. Yeah.
And maybe, I mean, in the Dark Knight trilogy, there was a 7-year time jump between Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. Do you think there'll be any time jumps in this, or do you think they'll kind of try and keep it pretty
linear? I could speculate either way, but you
have no slight time jump. I'm sure there'll be a slight time jump.
But he's already he's already about 30, so he's already like, he's not old, but he's getting there. Like, the
second film won't start straight after the events of the first film. I was guessing that however long the gap between films is might sort of be an indication of how long in like that world the time's passed. But in terms of like a big massive time jump like there was between Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, I don't know if we've seen that.
I don't think so. I hope not. Anyway, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't necessary. Do you know what I mean?
As a last little thing to wrap it up on, what villains do you guys want in the next few movies? Obviously, Nick Cage said he wants to be Egghead, which is interesting. Court of Owls is obviously thrown about all the time. It's a very big Batman storyline that hasn't been done yet. Joker, Hush, Riddler will obviously return. Two-Face, will they do him? Obviously, we've spoken about the ones that they probably can't do, like Killer Croc and Clayface. Are there any I haven't mentioned that you guys would like to see?
Scarecrow, definitely. Just imagine Scarecrow in this. Like, the Riddler was absolutely terrifying in this, for even that opening scene where you see him in the darkness stood behind the mayor. It's like, imagine that being Scarecrow with the direction and the story. He'd be absolutely terrifying. Like, killing him
on fear gas.
That would, Just imagine how scary they could make the Scarecrow in this. Like,
I think Poison Ivy could be a good one as well. I think you could get away with. Okay,
it's difficult to do though.
I'd go more down, so away from the supernatural part of it, of her like controlling flowers, but she's more of just like the kind of biological chemist kind of route, where she just has like these chemicals. She has access to these chemicals that let her control people or influence people in certain ways. I think because there's quite a political thing, but it's also like a medical aspect of it. It kind of fits both, because she can affect political aspects of the film, and she can come from like a medical background in order to like create these things and go about it that way. I think Poison Ivy could be a good shout, and also it could influence a story quite a lot, because she can control people. Like, she can control like the Penguin, she can control the mayor, like,
which would work very well with Hush if she can control people, because obviously she does that a lot in Hush. She brainwashes, she mind controls Catwoman to steal money from right at the start of it, I think Killer Croc kidnaps a boy, and then the ransom money is stolen by Catwoman by Poison Ivy controlling her, which then obviously helps unfold loads of other stuff. So, yeah.
So
Like
I think Poison Ivy
kind of thing
could fit in quite well, to be fair, I think. But just go about it a different way, just to get her away from Supernatural, get her fitting into this universe's story. Apart from that, we've said everyone else, really. So
yeah. I think we've covered quite a lot today.
Yeah, that was good.
All right.
definitely.
Well, thank you very much, guys, for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Let us know what you guys thought of the Batman down below in the comments. Subscribe if you're new around here. Crawl in towards that 900 subs still. Be greatly appreciative if we get that soon. This will be out on the Friday. There should be a blue podcast out tomorrow, and then maybe a purple show out on Sunday. So 3 podcasts on a weekend. What more can you want? Lots of content for you, football and the Batman. So yeah, we'll see you guys very soon for another podcast. Cheers.